Alright guys, welcome back to Metroid Prime 2. The last time we met Metroid Prime 2, we began the game, so now we're actually just going to continue on through the temple grounds here because we found where the Galactic Federation Troops were, but they got ambushed by some weird creatures, and yeah, they're all scattered throughout this place. All of them, by the way, you have to scan for lore if you want to whatchamacallit, fill out the logbook, but that's totally up to you. So yeah, I'm doing that first before we actually get our first upgrade of the game, even though it's just one that we already had, but we lost it like 5 minutes ago at the time of the video. But I'm doing literally everything else first, because once you get the upgrade, you are put into a fight that you're forced into. So yeah. So I'm just trying to do that first, and then I'll just get it. Yeah. Another thing is I will be prioritizing getting the map rooms as soon as fucking possible, because of the simple fact that I need to know where I'm going. And you know, if it was Metroid Prime 1, I would probably ignore the map rooms, knowing me, because I've done that before. I've done playthroughs where I've never got the map room, and I usually know where I'm going. But in this game, I always get the maps. So yeah. So yeah, we got our missiles back. Not really a big fanfare there because of, well, we had them for a little bit. So yeah. So yeah, we're actually fighting some dark enemies now, known as dark splinters. So yeah, I didn't even shoot that one; it just died. So the thing about dark enemies, typically, they're more resistant to, you know, they take a lot more to kill than the regular variations of enemies. So it may be a little bit longer to actually kill them, no matter, you know, it may take more charge shots or more missiles and stuff like that. I don't know why I'm looking down. But usually they have the same properties in terms of attacks as light, like the regular variation of enemies. I don't want to say light variation enemies because they're technically just normal Aether variants. There's no light enemies. They're just, you know, technically what we're in is light Aether, but I don't call the non-dark Aether light Aether because it's technically not, you know, it's just Aether. Because later on we will be going to the Dark Aether that we went to when we met Dark Samus, but I won't be doing that. We won't be doing that until we go to our first major area, which is the Aegon Wastes. Now, if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm looking for scan logs and just making sure. I can't open that door until I get the power bombs. Way later down the road, I want to say that's like, I want to say we get that in the Sanctuary Fortress, if I remember right. But the thing about dark enemies also, by the way, is that they are weak to the light beam when we do get that. Because one thing about Prime 2 that I sort of like, but also I will admit that I don't like this very much, is that later on we will be getting new beam weapons, but I don't like them because they have an ammo count. And if you are any sort of Metroid veteran, you probably already know where I'm going with this. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I will get into more about that later on, because there are just because there is an ammo count doesn't necessarily mean you can't use it at all when you run out of ammo. So you still have it for puzzles, but I mean, I'll get into what the beam attributes later. I mean, I already explained them, what the types are, because in this game the upgrades are pretty much the same in terms of like some mobility upgrades. The only difference are, the only ones that are different are the suit upgrade you'll be getting, which is the dark suit and then eventually the light suit, but I'll get into those later. But like, you get almost everything else you got back in Prime 1. You get the grapple beam, you get the space jump, you get stuff like that later on. But you know, Prime 2 does introduce new upgrades that are never seen again after this game because of, well, there's just really no reason for them to be there since, did I already scan a War Wasp? Okay, never mind. I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, War Wasps are pretty common enemies, so it's good to... Yeah, but you'll notice that I kind of take things a lot... If you watched my Metroid Prime Let's Play, you'll probably notice that I take things a lot slower on the GameCube version of the Metroid Prime series. Well, I say game of the series, but really it's only Prime 1 and 2 that are on GameCube. 3 hasn't gotten hasn't gotten a controller version, which I really kind of do hope that Metroid Prime 3 and 2, for that matter, do get a Switch port for a remaster, because it would be kind of... I would really like to see how they would do if they do make, you know, because they'd have to make the motion controls optional for Prime 3, and I feel like that would be the biggest challenge for them, because Prime 3 loves to remind you that you're playing the Wii. So you'll be doing motion controls to do things that really shouldn't have motion controls dedicated to them, but they do anyway. So I'm, like, very curious to see what Metroid Prime 3 Corruption would play like without the motion controls, if they do have a control scheme for it. I mean, Metroid Prime Remastered on the Switch did a pretty good job of making different control schemes that, for one, they had the control scheme that was the GameCube version, or at least similar to the GameCube version. Then they had one that was similar, and that was like the trilogy version, the Wii version. And then they had one that was the dual stick version, which was more in line with modern first-person shooters, you know, like the likes of Call of Duty and stuff like that. So I kind of do see Metroid Prime trilogy working on Switch. I hope it's, you know, I feel like they're going to just shadow drop them again like they did for Prime 1. That, or drop them right before Prime 4 comes out as a means to say, hey, you want to catch up on the Metroid Prime series? Here's Metroid Prime 2 and 3 on Switch now. And then they're going to release a bullshit bundle, which I'm most likely going to pay for, knowing me, of all 3 games on Switch too. I see that happening. I mean, Nintendo would do something like that, I feel. Like, I'm not gonna say mark my words or anything like that, but like, I feel like, you know, in the next few directs, we're gonna get that announcement, and I'm gonna be popping in on a short going, ha! I fucking knew it! In fact, I'll make a personal promise to myself that if that does happen, I will make a short that just says, ha! Fucking knew it! And then just, that's it. That's the short. Like, no context whatsoever, either. But also, now we're actually about to have our first boss battle of the game. I say boss battle in very loose quotes, because it's basically just a bigger version of the Splinter enemies we've been dealing with. Not now, we're going to be dealing with the small fry first. I will say, though, despite my dislike of Prime 2, I will admit I do like its soundtrack. I think Prime 2 has a really good soundtrack. It's not... I don't think it's as good as Prime 1 or Prime 3, for that matter. I think Prime 1 and 3 are better. But I do like Prime 2's. I remember a lot more themes from Prime 2 than I thought I did. Especially, like, the environmental themes and the battle themes. I think my favorite environmental theme probably has to go to Torvus Bog, but I'll get into my thoughts about that. By the way, you need to make sure you scan... So there are times where you fight the light version of an enemy, and then immediately it's going to turn into the dark variant. You need to make sure that when it's in the light variant, you need to make sure that is your first priority to scan. Do not just attack it right just yet. Make sure you scan it first, because this is one of those instances. Now, in this case, it just goes... It's a matter of damage. Yeah, so like once you damage it enough, it'll turn into its dark form. So yeah, you need to make sure that your first thing you do is you scan it, because you do have to scan it for both the you do have to scan both the dark variant and the original variant. It's mildly annoying that they do this sometimes. They don't do it all the time. I think they stopped doing it after the Aegon Wastes, I want to say. But, you know, just make sure, you know, especially if it's a boss fight, that you need to scan them first, because obviously once you kill a boss, you can't scan it anymore. And we're doing a lot better job of avoiding shit now. And that's it. Yeah. Yeah, that's the boss. You don't get an ability or anything like that. You just killed it. You just kill a boss, and you get a story upgrade, essentially. I like the fact that we had to walk into the upgrade still. Like, why didn't it just do this cutscene right after? System alert. Unknown item acquired. They could have done the unknown item jingle from Zero Mission. That would have been funny as hell. But no, they did this one, which I don't like. I don't hate this item acquiring theme. Oh yeah, they actually changed. They actually do have a new item acquiring theme for Prime 2, because I don't think I mentioned this back in Prime 1 because it's pretty obvious, but you know, there are different item acquiring jingles. Like when you get a major item like a big upgrade, you know, it's the standard Samus fanfare, you know, da na 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 na, and then they have the one that you get for getting expansions, which was the little, you know, dun 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 dun. And then they have a theme that's exclusive to Prime, to whatever Prime game it's playing, where it's like, you know, when you get a Chozo artifact back in Prime 1, it was different. And then here we have the Aether one, which plays for which, you know, that plays basically an abridged tune of which plays, you know, an abridged tune of this theme, which is, you know, the Luminoth theme, I guess it's called. I guess you could call it. By the way, yes, this is actually a new character, Yu Moss, who kind of just gives us exposition on what the fuck's going on in Aether. So basically what's going on is that, I don't know, I'm assuming Phazon caused it, because I don't remember what caused Aether to split off into its dark form and light form. But basically what we got was an energy transfer module. Because what happened was the Ing managed to steal the energy from Light Aether and is using it to, you know, power Dark Aether. And I think this was I think Dark Samus did this, if I remember right. Dark Samus did it. Dark Samus did it! But, so what we have to do is we have to go through each area and return the light from Dark Aether back to Light Aether. Pretty simple quest overall. It's not that hard. But Umos is basically our navigator, essentially. He doesn't, you know, chime in all the time. You have to go, in order to talk to him, you have to actively come back here. And, I'm scanning his cock. What were they saying? yeah, Umos is dick. It's like, okay, I didn't need a scan log on that one. But, by the way, Umos kind of glitched out there. He's supposed to kneel down like that. Yeah, he's supposed to kneel down. But he didn't do that. But Umos actually gave us the access to scan these these holograms here, which basically is another bit of lore, but they also do open certain gates. Because if you noticed when we were fighting in the arena where we fought the Splinters and the Alpha Splinter, I feel like I'm talking about fucking Ninja Turtles for some reason. There were multiple doors that popped up. There are multiple, yeah, these doors right here. Assuming I can go through the door. Yeah, all these doors have different colored holograms on them. So right now, we can't scan those two, but we can scan that one. So basically, that's how the game kind of locks you out of certain areas because you don't have the proper runes to get through those doors, which is a little annoying, and also is kind of one of those things where that makes Prime 2 a little more linear than Prime 1, because you can't just go to one area, get the because you can't just go to whatever area you want and get whatever upgrades you want before. Now, technically, I guess there's nothing really stopping you from going to get the next hologram thing, and then coming back here and going to the next area and getting all the holograms. I've never tried that. I don't know what the game does to make you... Well, no, because I think UMOS gives you another... gives you certain holograms, too. I don't remember. What am I doing? Am I trying to get... Oh, I'm trying to get missiles. We got splinters. Dark Splinter, sorry. Alright, and that's our first energy tank. Relatively easy to get, in all honesty. I mean, the energy tanks are usually the easiest to get in any Metroid game. I can't really think of a Metroid game that has energy tanks that are hard to get. Me? I know what I'm doing. I'm consulting my guide, making sure I'm like, am I going the right way? Hold up. Because I tend to do that, where I'm like consulting the guide like it's the freaking Bible or some shit. Like, hold on, am I going the right way? Okay, I'm good. By the way, I'm going to admit this, and I'm going to admit this now. The Temple Ground themes, you know, you hear that gong that happens throughout the song. I don't know why, but there are times where I shoot to the gong. Like, there'll be just times where I'm walking and I just shoot randomly. That's because I'm doing it to the gong. I don't do it now, I don't think, but I do it a lot. I know that. Like that. I don't know why I do it, I just do. By the way, would you believe me that I missed this missile expansion, like, several times my first playthrough of this game? There were just times, because my first playthrough was guideless, so I had no idea where any of the expansions were. So, like, there were multiple times where I came back up and down this elevator, kept walking right past that missile, not realizing. And that's even with, like, the audio cue that missiles have. Because, you know, whenever you walk by an expansion, you hear the audio cue from Prime 1, and I just blatantly ignored it. I don't know what I was doing. I was younger and stupider at the time, so I probably just didn't hear it, and I just wasn't paying attention. But it was just funny as hell to remember that I'm panicking, wondering where the hell is this one missile expansion, and then I'm like, this is the beginning area of the game, isn't it? Also, one thing that changed between Prime 1 and 2 was the logbook prompt. Back in Prime 1 on the original GameCube, it had like a certain... it had like a sound that played. It didn't say it had a voice line, if I remember right. But now in Prime 2 and onward, it just says recording to logbook like that. I don't know why they changed that. They just did. Because in Prime 1 Trilogy version, they changed it to where it says recording to logbook. So, and it's the same way in Prime Remastered. And if you're wondering why that scan was so fast, was because I think I tried to scan a sandbat earlier, but I just missed my window of opportunity, meaning that they escaped. And, well, luckily the scan visor keeps your progress, so it didn't matter that much. Also, another thing I kind of do that I don't know why I do this, and I don't know why I didn't change the control scheme, was I kind of get my missiles and morph ball mixed up. So there will be times where I accidentally switch to where I accidentally go into morph ball instead of firing a missile. So yeah, if there's times where it clearly looks like I'm trying to use the missiles, it's actually because I end up morph balling instead. That's because I accidentally mixed up my buttons. I don't know why I do that. I only do that on the GameCube version. I never do it anywhere else, and I never change the control scheme because I guess I'm a stubborn dumbass or something. I don't know. But that's actually going to do it for Metroid Prime 2 this week. I think that was the end of a session because it was a save room. But I'll see you guys next time for more Metroid Prime 2, and take care.